Well, hello. Yesterday, while it was snowing, I was able to go to the theater to watch 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Now, this is the direct sequel to last year's movie, 28 Years Later, and this is the fourth movie in the 28 series of movies. So we had 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, 28 Years Later, and now 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. This film stars Ralph Fiennes, Lewis-Parry, Jack O'Connell, Aaron Kellyman, and others. And it's directed by Nia DaCosta. It's not directed by Danny Boyle this time. I think it's interesting that, 28 Days Later was directed by Danny Boyle. And then we had 28 Weeks Later, which was directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. And then we had 28 Years Later, directed again by Danny Boyle. And now we have 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DaCosta. So we're kind of, alternating back and forth between directors as we go through this series. It's interesting. I feel like 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple would make very little sense in a vacuum. Like if you hadn't seen the previous three movies, certainly if you hadn't seen last year's movie, just 28 Years Later, I think this movie would not make much sense to you. I think it would be very confusing. You'd be like, what in the world is this? So I'm going to be talking about 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple in the context of last year's movie as well, because I think you need to at least have seen that one in order to contextualize this film. So from this point forward, I'm going to be talking about the movie plot, definitely spoilery kind of things. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want it spoiled for yourself, I would recommend you go see the film and then come back to this video, okay? So 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple starts where last year's movie left off, pretty much. So if you'll remember, in 28 Years Later, Spike meets Jimmy Crystal, who is the leader of this Kill Bill-esque gang who goes around killing zombies. They wear like tracksuits and they wear gold and diamonds and they're blinged out. They got rings and they're just a very swaggery kind of gang. And this is where last year's movie leaves off. Spike meets these people, they kill some zombies together, and that's the introduction. So 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple starts with Spike being inducted into Jimmy Crystal's gang. And what you need to know is that everyone in Jimmy's gang is named Jimmy. They are renamed Jimmy. I think some of the females might be like Jemima or something like that, but they're all Jimmy. So basically what happens in this scene where he's inducted into the gang is Spike becomes Jimmy because Jimmy tells Jimmy to fight Spike to the death. Spike kills Jimmy, so Jimmy makes a Jimmy out of Spike. So for a majority of the film, Spike is not Spike, but he's Jimmy. Is that clear? So Spike, who is Jimmy, by the way, not Jimmy Crystal, but Jimmy. Spike goes around roving the land with this gang of Jimmies, okay? They wreak havoc. Spike's a little conflicted about what goes on in this gang, okay? He can't quite take some of their tactics. But as Spike is roving with this band of Jimmies, we find out that essentially the core values of this gang is that they're Satanists, okay? And they like to basically harm people, okay? So that's kind of what Spike is having some issues with. So somewhere along the line, about the midpoint of the movie, I would say, this band of roving Jimmies who are Satanists very devoutly come across Dr. Kelson, who we remember from last year's film. And now this is kind of an eccentric man. He's played by Ralph Fiennes. He's covered in iodine because supposedly that keeps the rage virus at bay. And he has constructed the Bone Temple essentially as a symbol of memento mori, or remembering one's own death. The movie is subtitled The Bone Temple, so obviously we're going to come into contact with the Bone Temple again, which I was really excited for that because I really like 28 Years Later, but in my opinion, the best part of 28 Years Later was when we met Dr. Kelson, Ralph Fiennes' character, in the Bone Temple, and he essentially makes his case for this idea of memento mori, and he explains to Spike, death is a part of life. So obviously things are going to get interesting when a roaming band of Satanists come to something that looks like a satanic church, basically, with bones everywhere. Jimmy thinks that Dr. Kelson is the devil. He sees him from afar, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is my father, Satan. This is who I have been doing all this for. I got to go meet him. So Jimmy Crystal, the leader of the Jimmies, goes down to Dr. Kelson thinking he's the devil. He explains kind of what he's seeking. Dr. Kelson is like, nope, my name is Ian. I'm a doctor. I'm not Satan. Jimmy's a little disappointed, but he's like, okay, I have a problem. So all of my Jimmies over there that I made wait off in the distance think you are the devil, and I would gain a lot of credibility if you were the devil and if you endorsed me. So what I'm gonna do is make a pretty brutal agreement with you, basically threaten your life and tell you if you don't act like the devil when I bring my jimmies over, I'm going to kill you. So either put on a nice act or die. Though Dr. Kelson has kind of made his peace with the idea that he's going to die someday, he has developed some things that he cares for in the world, and so he's scared to die. So he makes this deal. He says, okay, I'll put on a good show for you. I'll scare the crap out of your jimmies, act like I'm the devil, endorse you. You'll go on your way. I'll live. So we get an extremely entertaining sequence of Ralph Fiennes dancing, acting very sinister, playing metal music while doing some pyrotechnic displays. It's quite a show. He does an awesome job. At the end of this, when he's kind of giving his endorsement to Jimmy to just make Jimmy go away with his roving band of jimmies, Ralph Fiennes' character, Dr. Kelson, finds out that, first of all, the jimmies are pretty horrible. They're doing some horrible things in the world. Jimmy Crystal kind of lays his cards out a little bit too much in the end of this interaction. And Dr. Kelson realizes, oh, I really shouldn't be endorsing this guy. I shouldn't be letting them go out of here. I need to do something about this. And then he finds out that Spike is in this gang, okay? They had all been wearing masks, so he didn't see him. But now he recognizes Spike. And he's like, oh boy, I really need to do something because I know this kid. I want this kid to be okay. And Jimmy Crystal is insane. He's a nut. Okay. And so Dr. Kelson essentially flips the script and is like, okay, I'm going to demand a sacrifice. And Jimmy Crystal's like, okay, you're going off script, but whatever. And he basically says, I demand the life of Jimmy Crystal, and his followers are the ones that need to essentially sacrifice him to me. And so obviously that creates chaos. Some people die. And this whole encounter ends with Jimmy Crystal being crucified upside down, like the great tradition of St. Peter. This movie, I will say, is quite brutal and dark. There were some moments that were pretty hard to watch. And though I didn't like the character, Jimmy Crystal, because he's a pretty terrible human being, I weirdly did like him for some reason. Like, I think he is a character who basically has been created by his circumstance. He's been created by the beliefs that he has chosen to adopt. And he's kind of a tragic character because you can see that there's sincerity in what he does. There's kind of like a childlike sincerity in what he does, but he has just gone terribly wrong. And so him dying is both kind of satisfying, but also really kind of tragic and heartbreaking. I was very mixed on his death. It's a wild movie, okay? And this is the film goes on a little bit more, but this is kind of where this film ends, okay? I don't know if this is what the directors are going for. I don't know if this is what the writers are going for, but these are kind of some themes that I saw throughout the films, okay? So in 28 Years Later, the film that came out last year, Spike, in the first part of that film, is taken on a journey in which he's subjected to kind of an initiation ritual. He's taken out by his father into the dangerous world. He kills some zombies. He learns that the world is a much more brutal, cruel, and deceptive place than maybe he thought as a child. This happens through several things. This happens through his encounters with zombies. This happens through him seeing his father do some questionable things, his father lying to him, understanding the world a little better, and understanding that the world is not such a kind place. And then in the second part of that film, he takes his mother out to meet Dr. Kelson, who is played by Ralph Fiennes. He wants his mother to be healed because there's some ailment that haunts her that nobody really knows what it is, and it's just really wrecking her life. What he learns in this encounter with Dr. Kelson is that death is inevitable. He learns memento mori, remember your own death. In this movie, he learns that life is more brutal than he once thought, and death is inevitable. So already we have a pattern of these movies using Spike as a vehicle to understand multiple facets of reality, of life. And I would argue that 28 years later, The Bone Temple does the same thing. It continues this theme of Spike learning aspects of life, okay? In this film, I would say one of the main things that Spike learns is that people try to cope with their mortality and the ugliness of the world in different ways. In the case of Jimmy Crystal, he experienced some horrible things as a child, and he's gone through life in kind of this horrible world. And so he embraced a belief that brought him comfort, a belief that brought him purpose. Embracing beliefs can be comforting, can be inspiring, but it can also be delusion-making, and it can be very caustic. And so essentially what Spike learns in this film is that not all beliefs are helpful. Not all beliefs are pure. There are some beliefs in this world that lead to mad delusion and wickedness. So the common thread, I would say, in these movies is basically Spike's experience and learning of hard life truths. Like any art, it's exploring life in some way. Now, having said that, this 28 years string of movies is supposed to have 3 films total. So this would be the second one of those 3. And though I like the thread of Spike learning hard life truths through these movies, in order to round out this trilogy of movies and have it be successful in my mind, I think we need to end it on a hopeful note. I'm hoping that the 28 years movies are not just going to be bleak. I hope they take us through an arc of bleakness, but end us in some brighter place. Because I think if they end the trilogy just with more bleakness, it's going to be too much. It's going to be a little too depressing. So I think I would give this film a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, if you haven't seen certainly 28 Years Later that came out last year, this movie's probably not going to make any sense to you. So certainly go watch the one that came out last year, if not the previous 3 movies that have come out over the last couple decades. Thanks again for being with me here today and listening to my thoughts. If you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments below. I appreciate you being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.
God will forgive them. I can't live with that.
Sit back.